Hi there, my name is Jess. I go by Mystic Jess. This is in collaboration with Intuitive Home Solutions, a 3-part series of 10 misconceptions about witches. The first one I did was top 10 Christian misconceptions in Christian belief systems and what they have about witches. The second one I did was top 10 Hollywood misconceptions about pagans and witchcraft in general. This last one is top 10 pagan misconceptions. Top 10 things that you may hear from other witches or pagans that are not entirely true or maybe just don't resonate with you. These are things that I've experienced, as well as other witches and pagans that I've spoken with that they have experienced, and really would just like you to stop saying these types of things to us. Number one is, you don't have to be in a coven. There is such a thing as solitary witches and solitary pagans. You do not have to pick a specific branch of spirituality and stick with it your whole life. You don't have to be a Wiccan your whole life, and you don't have to be a Druid in your whole life, and you don't have to be a Nordic Viking priestess your whole life. Spirituality, just like sexuality, is a moving object, and sometimes we believe in things one year, and the next year we'll move on to another branch of spirituality as we learn and grow. So you don't have to be a part of one specific brand of spirituality. And you shouldn't really listen to people who say that sort of thing to you either, because it's not entirely true. And there's plenty of Facebook groups and YouTube pages of people who believe in one thing 5 years ago, and then suddenly they start believing in something else because they've been enlightened, or perhaps contacted a new deity or spirit that shares with them a new part of the universal belief system, and they've decided to believe in something else, or perhaps it's grown or shifted or changed in some way. So that's number one. It's not always one thing, one path, one way. There's a saying in Japanese or Buddhist spirituality, I believe, that says there are many paths up the mountain, but the destination is the same. At least that's something that I believe in. Many years ago, I believed in just being one brand of witchcraft, but now I'm just sort of floating in between a couple different things, and that's okay. As long as you are happy in your spirituality, then it's all right. Being a solitary witch is okay, and studying more and practicing is okay as well. You need to protect your mind and your energy and your space from people who would contaminate it. If there's a person that you've been practicing with, or perhaps learning about reading tarot or palms from, who suddenly started behaving very ritualistic, and that doesn't really go well with the way that you're feeling in your spirituality, you have 100% right to stop speaking to them, or perhaps to take a break from speaking to them. It is totally all right. Whatever you learn and feel in your path, you should go with it. Absolutely 100% go with it, and don't be afraid to learn and grow and shift and change. It's a part of living, and it's a part of life. One day you may be working in a Starbucks and you're perfectly happy making coffee, and it's been that way for several years, and then one day perhaps you feel like you want to go to law school. You can definitely go to law school. You don't have to be a barista your whole life, just like you don't have to be a Wiccan or a Druid your whole life. It's okay to shift and change and learn and grow, and perhaps one day you're studying with a coven of witches, and then the next day you'd like to change and be a solitary witch, and that's okay too. Another thing that is something I really wish people would stop saying to me, and to especially beginner witches in general, is that you have to buy really expensive tools or crystals in order to practice your spirituality. 100% not true. You can work with a clear quartz crystal point, a rose quartz heart, and a plain amethyst wand for a very long time, and that's all you work with. Perhaps you really do feel drawn to the ancient, really expensive crystals, and you really feel like you need this specific crystal in your practice. You're really drawn to it, and you don't have the money for it right now. That's okay. Perhaps save up your money and you can buy it one day, or maybe ask Spirit if there's maybe a lesser expensive crystal or tool that you can work with, and most times Spirit understands, at least in my experience and in experience of those who I speak with and have practiced with. You may see something online and it's an amazingly rainbow, beautiful crystal quartz, aura quartz that you just absolutely love, but it's like $95 and you can't afford it. Perhaps you can go to your local crystal shop or maybe an Etsy shop and find a smaller aura quartz that also would work perfectly well for you. A while ago, I was really, really drawn to labradorite, and I was seeing really expensive pieces online that were beautifully rainbowy, but I just could not afford a $135 giant labradorite piece. And I ended up finding this piece at a little crystal fair, and it's beautifully rainbowy, and I had my sister wire wrap it for me, and it just ended up being perfectly what I needed. So you don't have to buy really expensive tools in order to direct your energy. Your energy is your own. Tools just help to direct it in a specific way. Ask Spirit what it is that it thinks that you need and move forward with that. Another misconception is that a specific ancestry or spiritual family history is better than another, and that's just not true either. Some people believe that blood witchcraft is the only way to go. By saying blood witchcraft, I mean that you have a family history of people being witches and that their magic is then passed on to you when they pass on. Many people believe that that's the only way to be a witch. If you didn't have witches in your family history, then you're not a witch, but that's not true either. I believe that it's okay to learn witchcraft later in your life, or learn about the magic of the earth and the universe later in your life, and learn and practice from it. And just like any talent or gift, it takes practice to really develop really, really well. You're not just born with the talent of doing makeup artistry. It takes practice, just like any Hollywood makeup artist would tell you. It takes years and years of practice and using different mediums to shape on a person's face in order to get the result that you really like. And that's just the way it is. Just because you are descendant from old world Russian witchcraft doesn't mean that you're better than the woman who's learning witch doctoring in Louisiana. I mean, magic and spirit is universal. And just because you have a race car doesn't mean that you're a better driver than somebody who has their father's old beat up Toyota. Maybe they're a better driver than you. Just because you own it doesn't mean you're better at it. And just because your family history is in witchcraft doesn't mean that you're going to be better at witchcraft than somebody who's been practicing for a really long time. It's about practice, and it's about studying in order to make your path and your practice better. The next misconception I'd like to point out is titles. Just because somebody is a grand priestess doesn't mean that they know more or that they're better than you are. Go with what feels right for you. Go on the path that feels right for you, and don't envy other people just for having bigger and better crystal shops or a huge following that they're in magazines and they're having interviews on television and by other big name celebrities. Just because that somebody's been in it for a really long time or calls themselves a specific name doesn't mean that they're better in magic than you. And don't think that that deity and that spirit recognizes them over you. Spirit recognizes anyone who's willing to listen. You don't have to follow specific rules in order to be a witch either. The Wiccan Rede or Karma or the Law of Three are all really, really great things, but if you don't believe in it, that's fine. You don't have to believe in something. Many people testify as to the power of different Wiccan Redes or Karmas or the Law of Three or the Ten Commandments even. They really testify as to seeing the power of it. And that's because they believe in it. They've seen evidence of it. If you haven't seen evidence of it and you're curious, perhaps you can ask Spirit to show you what it is and to open your eyes to it. But if you don't feel you need to practice with the Wiccan Rede or the Law of Three, and that Spirit doesn't tell you that you need to, don't worry about it. You don't have to work with a specific pantheon of gods either, especially if your whole family has worked with the same pantheon. If like your whole family is pagan or witchcraft as far back as you can remember, and they all are like, they can trace their ancestry back to Greece, and they all practice with the Grecian gods. And you feel called to an old world Russian goddess like Baba Yaga, or perhaps the Hawaiian goddess Pele of the volcanoes. If you feel really drawn to it, don't feel guilty. It's just another branch of spirituality that's calling to you. Feel free, completely free to to research that and to learn about that deity or spirit, and that is completely okay. Another aspect I'd like to point out is a lot of witches and pagans in general, specifically speaking with me, the first thing that I saw about witchcraft was Wicca, and I really thought that I had to follow the Year and a Day program, and I was, following it to the letter, and then one day I felt like I was really feeling constricted and that I wanted to branch out into other parts of spirituality, like I mentioned before, and that is completely okay. If you feel that following a Year and a Day program is too confining for you and that it doesn't match up with your lifestyle and that perhaps it's too involving for you, don't worry about it. I mean, if maybe 1 week you don't have a lot going on at work and you have more time to meditate or do a lot more research or meet up with other pagans in your area, that's great. And then perhaps the Christmas months come along and it's so busy and you just don't have time to follow that Year and a Day program. It's okay. The goddess and the god understand. Believe me, they understand what it's like to be busy. And if you feel guilty about it, just maybe take a moment or a little 10-20 minute meditation and speak with spirit about it. Let them know, I really, really wish I could communicate with you more right now, but I'm just slam busy at work. And many times you will feel a sense of overwhelming, release from the guilt. They don't want you to feel guilty. They want you to feel happy and joyful and researching and communing with them. And then maybe weeks down the line, you'll feel that pull again, like you really should be participating in your spirituality. And that's not a bad thing. That guiltiness is just like a little pull on your heartstrings from spirit, and remembering that they want you to communicate with them, or maybe they have a message for you. Don't feel guilty about it. When you have time, communicate with them. If you don't have time, don't worry about it. Don't shame somebody just because they believe differently than you. If somebody follows the Wiccan Rede and another person you know doesn't, don't shame that person who doesn't follow the Rede. And don't shame someone if they don't believe in saging. Don't shame someone if maybe they are not participating in the Sabbats or the Esbats. If they don't believe in that, or they don't participate in it, or perhaps they curse a lot of people and they say they don't believe in karma, don't shame them for it. Maybe spirit isn't showing them that is something that they need to participate in this part of their life. Many of us grew up in organized religion, and we've shirked those rules and guidelines because we felt constricted. We don't want to be put in a box all over again. Let us fly free. That's the beauty of witchcraft and paganism. It's a beautiful path, and it allows you to shift and grow, and that's what I love about it. So don't shame someone because they believe differently than you. And lastly, on that note of cursing someone, some of us do believe in cursing. Some of us believe that it's a part of karma that we are moved to act upon in spirit and working alongside our deities. So don't shame someone for cursing or for using black magic, or what you view as black magic. And don't shame someone for not using black magic. I mean, magic in general, I believe, is a spectrum of color, just as sexuality is. I mean, it's a rainbow. It's from black to white and every color in between. So some days you do white magic and you just feel really light, you feel like blessing the world, and some days you feel like working in the shadows. And that's part of it. That's part of shadow work, is learning to deal with the darker aspects of the universe and the darker aspects of ourself and the darker aspects of the goddess, or of universal spirituality in general. So those are my top 10 sort of beliefs for especially beginner witches and those who are looking into beginner paganism. Follow your spirit. Follow your deity. Listen to what the universe or what spirit is telling you, and move with it. And be okay with shifting and changing and with growing. All right? My name is Jess, Mystic Jess. I am working with Intuitive Home Solutions here. Remember that we also have a Facebook page, a Facebook group, a Twitter, an Instagram, a blog, a shop on the site, and a shop on Etsy as well. So there's plenty of platforms to follow us on for other videos, tips, discounts, and even blog articles of interest. Our Facebook page and our group share lots of funny witchcraft memes, so feel free to go ahead and follow over there. If you have any comments about things that people have told you that you have to follow in witchcraft that you don't feel works with your spirituality, leave a comment. I'd love to hear about it and talk to you about it. Feel free to give this video a big magical thumbs up, and I'll see you guys again soon. Blessed be.